We'll keep this video quite short. We're just going to concentrate here on the minor 7th movable chord fragment shapes on the top 3 strings. Minor 7th chord shapes we can use as substitutes for minor chords. So in the last video we looked at the movable fragments for playing minor chord sequences, and this time we'll look at minor 7ths, which, as I say, you can use always as a substitute for the minors. We'll see how that works in just a moment. Let's get into the shapes first of all. You'll remember, I'm sure, our A minor shape. There's an A minor chord. We take the 4th string finger off. We can now replace the index finger with the second or middle finger, and that's our A minor shape on the top 3 strings, and it comes up the neck as long as we fret the 1st string 1 fret below. So we've got this diagonal line shape of the 1st string, 2nd string, 3rd string. A minor shape moving up the neck. How do we turn that into a minor 7? Well, there's a rule for turning any minor chord into a minor 7 chord, which is you find the root note of the chord, that is the note that has the same name as that chord. In this case, we'll say the note A, and you bring it down 2 frets, or 1 tone in musical language. Now, the root note of this shape is on the 3rd string. So here we are actually in the chord of B flat minor. And the note B flat is here on the 3rd string at the 3rd fret. So whenever you're in this shape, the root note is always whatever the note is on the 3rd string. Now we're going to bring that down 2 frets. You can see, I'm sure, that means we're going to have to reposition the fingers. I'm now in the chord of C minor, by the way. It makes sense to you, I'm sure. B flat minor, B minor, C minor. 3rd string is going to come down 2 frets. So there it is, 2 frets lower. And we still want the 1st string at the 3rd fret and the 2nd string now at the 4th fret. That's a fragment of a C minor 7 chord. You'll notice that it's the D shape. For now, we're just going to consider that to be coincidental. It happens to work that way. You'll see that the other shapes do too, but it's acting here as a C minor 7 chord. Very important that you see the relationship between this C minor and the C minor 7, that only the 3rd string has moved and it's come down 2 frets. And of course now that's a minor 7 chord everywhere on the neck. So C minor 7, C sharp minor 7, D minor 7, D sharp minor 7, E minor 7, and so on. So that was the A minor shape turning into a minor 7 shape. Now last time we looked at the D minor 7 shape as another option for creating minor chords. There it is as D minor. The root note of this shape when it's a minor chord is the 2nd string. So the 2nd string is going to come back 2 frets. It'll come back in this case to the 1st fret. Again, we'll need to refinger. Away comes the ring finger. This index finger can lie down to cover the 1st fret of both the 1st and 2nd strings. Now we've got a D minor chord, and you'll notice that it's the same as the F major shape that we learned way back at the beginning of this series. But here it's acting as a minor 7 chord. And in fact, you might recognize that shape as being the chord of D minor 7. And E flat minor 7, and E minor 7, and F minor 7, and so on. One more shape. We said that the top 3 strings all barred at 1 fret gave us what I call the E minor shape, coming out of the E minor chord, where the top 3 strings are open, and those 3 strings can move up the neck. F minor, F sharp minor, G minor, as we remember. The root note of this chord shape when it's acting as a minor chord is the 1st string. Here we are playing G minor. The 1st string note is G. It comes back 2 frets, but the other 2 stay where they were at the 3rd fret. Now we've got a chord that's acting as G minor 7. And you'll notice again that it's the same as the A-shaped major chord. That's not entirely coincidental, but for our purposes now we're going to say that it is. So those are our 3 shapes. You've got this shape that looks for all intents and purposes like a D shape, but it's acting now as a minor 7. In this position where I am now, it's C minor 7. C minor, C minor 7. We've got the D minor shape. Here it is as a D minor chord. Root note is the 2nd string. It comes back 2 frets. We get this shape. D minor 7. Or E minor 7, or whatever you want. And then we've got the E minor shape. Here it is playing G minor, or A minor, wherever you want. And the root note on the 1st string comes back 2 frets, giving us this shape. That is your minor 7 shape out of the E minor shape. currently playing A minor 7. So if you followed the previous videos carefully, that I'm sure will make sense to you why this is A minor 7, now that you've learned how the minor 7 one works. If that doesn't make sense to you, why it's A minor 7 here and B minor 7 here, for example, go back and review the series from video number 5. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on a backing track that has minor 7th chords strummed. E minor 7, B minor 7, A minor 7, and we're going to put a little lead over the top of those to show you how we can use these shapes in a real context. That example used minor 7th chord shapes over minor 7th chords. What you heard being strummed in the background were all minor 7th chords. What I want to show you now is how you can use these minor 7th chord shapes over ordinary minor chords, and in doing so you create a slightly jazzier sound. So of course, over normal minor chords, as we saw in the previous video, you can use normal minor chord fragments for our lead. But you can also substitute these minor 7th chords even when the other guitarist is playing ordinary minor chords. That can be quite an effective new colour to your sound, and we're going to have a look at that in practice now as we play this piece that includes the chords of D minor, G minor, F minor and A minor. We're going to play fragments of minor 7th versions of those chords while the guitarist underneath us plays straight minors. So there you saw the example of how you can put minor 7th chord shapes, fragments over the top of ordinary minor chords and get a little bit of extra colour. You might consider it slightly more jazzy. Now in the next video we're going to get into 7th chords, or technically known as dominant 7th chords, and major 7th chords. There's going to be a lot more to go into with those, so we're going to call it a day for this video now. Practice your minor 7th fragments until you know them as well as your ordinary minor fragments, and then take a look at the next video that we'll get into, which, as I say, is covering 7th and major 7th chords. I'll leave you in this video with the backing tracks that I just played over so that you can practice these ideas over the same tracks that you just saw.